This is Football Night in America, served by Applebee's.
What's up, everyone? It is time for your Week 4 recap. Maria Taylor alongside Matthew Berry, Mike Florio, Devin McCourty, and Jason Garrett. And because Matthew's here, we're going to start with the Commanders. And the way that they commanded that win against the Cardinals with the rookie quarterback not looking much like a rookie.
No, he's absolutely fantastic. And in fairness, we're not just talking about it because I'm here. We're talking about it because Jayden Daniels is actually setting NFL records. It's unbelievable. They scored 42 points, the most since 2016, 10 for 13 on third and fourth down. To me, what's insane about Jayden Daniels is the poise. It's not just the highlight plays. It's the accuracy, and in clutch moments, third downs, fourth downs, whether it's throwing the ball, running the ball, he's got the entire team believing. He looks like a 10-year veteran out there. He is everything that a Commanders fan and the NFL could have asked for, and that much more. He's being mentioned. Come on, he like not since RG3's rookie year has there been this kind of excitement in DC.
See, but that every time I hear RG3's rookie year, I think of how it ended, and I see the hits he takes, and that needs to evolve and grow. I want to give some praise to Cliff Kingsbury. When he got hired to be the coach of the Cardinals, like, what did he do at Texas Tech to justify being a head coach in the NFL? And then when he got hired as the offensive coordinator at the Commanders, like, what did he really do as a head coach with the Cardinals to bounce back and be offensive coordinator? But I think that's what he should be. The question becomes, and this is a point Chris always made when he was coaching the Cardinals, that college offense, as you get deeper into the year, are you staying ahead of the defenses, or are they figuring out the things you're doing and shutting you down? It may not matter. When you have Jayden Daniels, it may not matter. Whatever a defense tries to do, it might work. But Kingsbury is one of the big reasons that they are where they are right now.
Yeah, I think you hit on it, Barry. You mentioned looking like a 10-year veteran. The way he has the guys on the team playing, the defense has stepped up and played well. That's been a big part of what the Commanders are doing, and it takes that. You know, from playing in the NFL, you know when you play defense, if you're the guy on the other side, the quarterback is a guy that can go win games, you work your butt off all week to get better. And Jayden Daniels has brought that culture, that environment to this Washington team who over the last few years had been through a lot. There wasn't a lot of hope or excitement about the Commanders. He comes in, and right away you're seeing it pay off, and they're winning ball games.
I can remember in the spring, you and I did a podcast, and we were talking about the quarterbacks in the draft. So you go do a little deep dive on these guys. When I put the tape on of Jayden Daniels, I was like, wow. I had seen him play on TV before. He was impressive that way. But when you really dug into it, you're like, this guy is so far beyond his years. He was so mature. On top of all the wow plays that he made with his feet, I mean, he could throw all different kinds of balls. He had touch. His footwork was great. His decision-making off the charts. Now he's taken that tape and said, okay, that was LSU. Now I'm doing the exact same thing in the NFL. Typically for a rookie quarterback, there's that old cliche. Hey, it's like midnight in Times Square. That's what the game looks like. People all running around. They can't see things. They can't slow things down. And this guy, he's so calm. He's so poised. And then you add that athleticism to it. It's ridiculous, and it's pervasive throughout the team. When you have a quarterback like this, hey, we got a chance with this guy. Defense starts playing better. They start feeding off of each other. Some great stuff happening in Washington right now.
And by the way, I would argue that Jayden Daniels is playing with worse talent this year in Washington than he did at LSU last year. All due respect to Olamide Zaccheaus and Noah Brown, but think about who he was throwing to at LSU last year. I mean, in all seriousness, right? Exactly, Malik Neighbors, Bryant. Like anyway, Jayden Daniels has set an NFL record. No quarterback in NFL history has a higher completion percentage through 4 games of a season, minimum 40 pass attempts, than Jayden Daniels, again, with Terry McLaurin and some other, complementary pieces, as you would say it. They've won 2 games on the road. They're first place in the NFC East. First place in the NFC East.
One more thing on Mike's point about Cliff Kingsbury. When he came to Arizona, he was running a college offense. The whole thing was spread out. It was all wide receivers. They didn't use tight ends. They didn't use fullbacks. And as that season went on, the quarterback was getting killed. They weren't a very physical team. Credit to him over the course of that year, over the next couple of years, and now coming back, he's a different coach now than he was then. I mean, it's multiple with their personnel groupings, how they're running the football, so much better than they have in the past, and that's taken a lot of burden off the quarterback.
Simsy brought this up on Football Night in America, and it's such a great point because we all want to talk about Jayden Daniels because he's so fantastic, but how about Brian Robinson? How about this running game? We saw it earlier with Austin Eckler. He's out with a concussion. Here comes Jeremy McNichols, who's been on a couple of teams in the NFL. They ran with power, an offensive line that coming to the season, a lot of people said, I don't know about this line. He's got them playing great, the entire team. So I'm with you. Credit to Cliff Kingsbury. And by the way, credit to Coach Dan Quinn. This team plays disciplined. Not a lot of turnovers, not a lot of penalties. They've done a great job. And again, I'd just like to remind you, they are first place in the NFC East. I don't know how long it lasts.
That's enough about Washington.
I don't know how long it lasts, but let me enjoy the moment.
How long do we think that actually lasts, though? Do we believe
he was ready to keep going.
I would have said it wouldn't have happened at 1 week this entire season. So you give me 1 week, we're in first place, I'll take it.
Yeah, hopefully longer than the segment.
Okay, from the Commanders to the Vikings.
Number 1 seed in the NFC.
Yes.
This is ridiculous.
We're never going to talk tonight.
Wait till we get to the Patriots, Devin.
What's your biggest takeaway, Florio?
I think that this offense can only get better as they get pieces back. Jordan Addison back today, had a big day, 3 catches, 72 yards, and a touchdown. T.J. Hawkinson trending toward returning. He was the go-to guy last year. When all else failed, T.J. Hawkinson's available to throw the football to. He hasn't been around since tearing the ACL late last season. That makes the offense better. So they're going to get some pieces back that will make them even better. To get out of there with a win after trying to blow it. I mean, I think the mark of a good team is that one day when you try to blow it and you still find a way to hold on, because it just felt like all the momentum had shifted, and it's just a matter of time before the Packers win that game. And they held firm. They got down the field. They scored when they needed to, built the lead back up again. So it's still a long way to go, but I would have never dreamed they'd be 4-0.
And it's interesting because this time last year, we were talking about the 49ers, we were talking about the Ravens, and we kept calling them the most complete team. And we haven't used that phrase this year around here. But when you look at Minnesota, the way they've played, it's been defense stepping up, making plays. It's been Darnold. It's been Aaron Jones in the running game. They've done so many different things. And you talked about Addison coming back, Hockenson. But now you even add a guy like Naylor, because of injuries, had to step up and make plays.
As long as he doesn't return punts.
But now this team, it just feels like they have so many different pieces and people, and we haven't even really dug into the defense and adding guys like Van Ginkel and Grenard and how they've helped this team. So I'm excited to watch this Minnesota team. Obviously, great relationship with Brian Flores and what he's building, and he talked about studying these different offenses, the Shanahans, the McVays, and studying the offseason and having a plan, and they've had a plan so far in every game they've been in.
You know, you use the term complete team, and it's amazing when you pull back and say that's a complete team, how that allows the quarterback to play so much better. Right? When you don't play great defense, the quarterback feels a burden. When you don't run the ball, quarterback feels the burden. So the environment that's being created there by Kevin O'Connell for the quarterback is fantastic. But it's a really good team around him. He's got weapons. They got a runner. They got a defense. So Sam Darnold goes into that game saying, hey, I'm 1/11th of this offense. I don't have to do it all. Execute the plays, throw it to the right guy. They'll get run after catch and go. Early in his career with the Jets in Carolina and all these other places, he had the whole city on his shoulders every Sunday afternoon, and you can't play quarterback that way. So the environment's great, the quarterback's great. It's a really good story.
On the flip side, though, we saw Jordan Love coming back for the first time in 2 games. And, Coach, just walk us through the decision that you make when a guy has something like a knee injury to put him back in, because he didn't look 100% in this game, especially early.
You know, I think it's as challenging a thing as you go through as a head coach. Because you want competitive guys. You want guys who want to play. And then you have to consult with the medical staff, but you also have to consult with the player. Is the player ready? And then you have to pull back and use your eyes and say, is he right? Can he protect himself? Can he play at a high level? Do we have an alternative? And so I reflect back on my coaching career and saying, I made a lot of mistakes in this area. Because you say, okay, the guy wants to play. He wants to play. He's got a great look in his eye. You put him out there. He's not himself. And for me, with this situation in Green Bay, Malik Willis goes in there and they play great. Mm-hmm. They win 2 games. And so if you have any question about the health of your quarterback, is he doing okay? Can he handle the rigors of a game? Can he play at a high level? When you have that situation going, hey, take another week. There's no doubt that Jordan Love is their quarterback. They're paying him $200 million, right? So he'll be their quarterback for a long, long time. Sometimes you got to step in and really protect the player from himself. I'm not so sure they did that.
Well, listen, 2-0 with Malik Willis, 0-2 with Jordan Love so far in the season. But I will say I thought at least he looked better in the second half. 271 yards, 3 touchdowns in the second half after that rough start. So it was good that he got back to speed and made this a game as well. One last note, just as long as we're talking about the Packers. I got to bring this up, Maria, okay? So Xavier McKinney, has an interception. He is now the 4th player in NFL history since the year 2000 with an interception in each of his 4 games. Trayvon Diggs did it. Brian Russell with Minnesota in 2003 did it. And Devin McCourty with the 2019 Patriots did it as well.
Why were you Defensive Player of the Year in 2019?
Oh, that's a stretch. That's a stretch right there. But that defense I was on in 2019, pretty special defense.
I don't know if you guys know this. Rutgers, Hall of Fame. You guys
I hadn't heard.
And he's a Hall of Famer.
It's a cool graphic, though. Anytime your name gets to be on a graphic where it's not bad, I'll take it.
It's a nice graphic.
Yeah, you got a lot of love this week. Week 4 is going to go down in the history.
Now you're about to shut me down.
I know. Because how the Patriots do. No, I'm just
just as good as Georgia.
Before we, roll tide. Before we get there, let's talk about shake and bake. Baker Mayfield, okay, he's playing. Tom Brady's back in the building. A little bit of back and forth. He says he's bringing some joy back. You know, Tom Brady's like, well, I'm not taking kids to Disneyland. Right. But then Baker goes out and looks unconscious and able to make every single throw and every single play. What impressed you most from his performance?
And that's the thing about Baker. Like, a normal quarterback says that about Tom Brady, and then that's the week Brady comes back and calls the game. And I know Baker didn't hear, but then Brady goes on and, like you said, Marie, he criticizes it and talks about if I want to have fun, I'm taking my kids to Disney. Baker knew the pressure he put on himself, and he came out and he said, you know what? I'm going to be out here dealing touchdowns. I'm going to throw for 2. I'm going to run for 1. And that's who Baker Mayfield is. So as much as they talked about him making it more fun, I don't see it, because when you see Baker Mayfield and you see that offense, you see him he's intense. He's going crazy. And the guys around him, they talked about it last year when he got there. They got excited. He's over there headbutting players after throwing touchdowns, and you can feel that energy. And I don't know what Philly needs to do. They got to figure something out when they go to Tampa, because Baker Mayfield and that whole Tampa Bay team just destroyed Philly from beginning all the way to the end.
They sure did. You know, your old teammate, Tom Brady, has the ultimate trump card for the rest of his life.
Can't say that, right?
Whatever argument, he can just say, well, I'm looking for my 7th Super Bowl trophy, you know, that sort of a thing. And it ends all discussion. I love Baker Mayfield. You know, you talk about those drafts of these quarterbacks. Baker Mayfield and Sam Darnold are in the same class, and the competitive nature of Baker Mayfield was line 1. Okay, we use a word around here, moxie, a lot. He's got moxie, and he's got it in spades, and he's in an environment now where that can come out. And it's a long discussion forever about, do you have fun playing football, right? Vince Lombardi's team, were they having fun? Well, they had fun when they held the trophy up, right? And I think your guy Brady, I think he had fun. We were on the other sideline a few times. He comes out of the tunnel. He's getting everybody going. He's having fun doing what he's doing. So different people have different personalities. I know this. Those guys down there in Tampa, they love the fun they're having with Baker Mayfield as their quarterback.
And I'm impressed by the fact that, you know, last week it didn't go well for them. And you're not going to go 17-0. You're going to step on a rake every once in a while. What happens the next week? For as ugly as it was against the Broncos, they put that behind them, and they got an Eagles team that had reason to feel good about itself after the Monday night debacle. And the Eagles were the ones that stepped on a rake today. And more accurately, Baker Mayfield's the one that, you know, hit him with the rake. And when he's playing like that, it just makes
violent.
It's a violent sport. That's right.
It's a violent game.
I can't help but wonder if the Browns had just given him a little more time. If they hadn't gotten obsessed with bringing in Deshaun Watson and let this ride out, because they could be the ones benefiting.
I think he's matured. He did a lot of commercials in Cleveland. You know, and he's locked in a little bit more on playing quarterback. I think he's embracing this opportunity. So sometimes those cycles happen with
he
players.
Might not have been the same.
Yeah, and they need a new place, and he's got one, and I know he's grateful for it.
Yeah, by the way, he also has Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. And I don't know that he had 2 receivers as good as that ever in Cleveland, if they ever would have had that, you know, as well. I think you bring up a great point, Mike, in terms of after losing in an embarrassing way against the Buccaneers last week, they come out. Baker Mayfield now through this season, 10 total touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's running, he's throwing, bounced back in a big way against an Eagles defense that we thought, at least last week, had figured it out. They shut down this high-flying Saints offense last week, and you're like, uh-oh, here come the Eagles. And this is an important win for not just Baker Mayfield, but the Buccaneers as well, because look at their upcoming schedule. At Atlanta, at New Orleans, home to Baltimore, and then home to Atlanta again. So 3 of the next 4 are division games, and so you don't want to go into that stretch against those teams. They got 4 in a row that are going to be tough games coming off of, you know, back-to-back losses. So I think this is a big win for the Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. And by the way, credit that defense as well. The Eagles got nothing going. Tampa Bay ran 22 plays in Philadelphia territory before the Eagles even ran 1 on the Buck side of the field.
Yeah, we looked up at one point and we were like, wait a minute. I mean, do you see this? It's straight zeros. There's nothing.
Yeah, 255 to 0 in yardage. I've never seen that in my life.
Yeah.
So is it time to hit the panic button if you're the Eagles? Are we just waiting to get healthy? I mean, what is the level of concern we're dealing with right now?
The issue with Philly is they were 10-1 last year. So this has been going on for a while now. You know, it was a terrible slide at the end of the year for them. There was a bad feeling in the building. I know they felt good about bringing new coordinators in, guys who are proven in this league, and Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. And like you said, we thought last week, hey, here we go. Okay, we're hitting our stride. But then to go down in Tampa and lay an egg like that, you know, they got to be scratching their heads. It's a long year. We're going to write this narrative over and over and over again for the next 13 weeks. But they certainly got to look each other in the eye, and they got to start playing better football.
They were down several key players, but if they're ever going to play well this year, why not do it in the place where you got embarrassed in the playoffs? That would be the one place. If you're the head coach, that you're spending the entire offseason, as soon as you get the schedule, you see week 4, we got to go back to Tampa Bay. It's our chance to exercise demons, and that makes it even worse.
Everyone should have been thinking about that. The head coach, the players. My thing is they had guys out on offense. Smith, Brown, Johnson. Yeah, that's on offense. Defensively, that's your defensive team. You just went to New Orleans. You played well. Let's stack some games together. This team is so inconsistent on defense that it scares me that if Jalen Hurts and that offense don't go out there and put up 30 to 35 points, they just won't win because they never know what they're going to get on the defensive side of the ball.
The important thing to me is how Philadelphia reacts internally to this, because last year, okay, they were 10-1 and they were okay. You know, like they'd won a couple games that maybe they shouldn't have, but whatever, they were doing well. And then you remember the middle of the season, they had the Cowboys game and they had the Niners game, and they got boat raced in both of them. And they just sort of they panicked, and all of a sudden they're switching defensive coordinators, and I'm like, you guys are still 10-3 or whatever it was. I mean, you know, they were still like the top of the NFC, and they just completely panicked, and I thought they melted down, and then of course just sort of limped through the rest of the season before losing to the Buccaneers in the playoffs. And you know, so I might have those numbers a little bit wrong, but that's what I remember was just Philadelphia had this internal meltdown because they had 2 bad losses in a row, and so you know this is a tough one. And boy, Coach, you know this as well because you've had to play at Philadelphia so many times, but that is as passionate a sports city as there is in the NFL. Sports radio, I'm sure, is already talk. They're going to talk all week long. And by the way, I think this is good, but it's going to be 2 weeks of talk. They have a bye next week. So they have a bye. If there's one positive for the Eagles, they have a bye next week, and then they come out with a home game of the Browns. Browns struggling, obviously. Then they're at the Giants. They're at Cincinnati. So there's a 3-game stretch there that's very winnable for the Eagles, and they got 2 weeks to get themselves right. But I think how they react internally is going to be important for this team. Yeah, dealing with adversity early rather than late, and whether or not they can handle it during the season. Well, handling adversity, something the Chiefs are able to do during games. They've done it time and time and time again, and they had to play from behind against the Chargers. They scored 17 unanswered points. They walk away with the win, but they're down Rashee Rice, who ended up being carted off from the game. And where does that leave this Chiefs offense that was already, you know, dealing with not having all the playmakers that you would want to surround Patrick Mahomes with? And Rice really was the guy that they envisioned becoming the #1 receiver. He was on way to doing it. Last year, he learned that offense faster than Tyreek Hill did when he was a rookie. That's why they stood behind him with the stuff that happened off the field this year. They say it's uncharacteristic, but also they understand how good he could be. And now they're going to have to figure out, what do you do? Hollywood Brown's already gone, at least until January. Xavier Worthy, is he ready to step up? They need a #1 receiver, and there really isn't one on that roster other than Rice or Hollywood Brown, and now they're both gone. Yeah, and I think Mahomes starts to feel it now. It hasn't been his best ball in the early part of the season. But remember, last year we were sitting here, we were like, you know, the Chiefs are struggling because they have no one to throw the ball to. It's just Kelsey. These receivers aren't ready. We thought Rashee Rice had some talent, but he wasn't there yet. And all Patrick Mahomes did was find ways to win some games. They didn't look great last year, but they did different things. And I think that's what they're going to call upon. Hey, Mahomes, there's a reason why most people in the NFL think you're the best player in the NFL. Yeah. We need you to go do that until Hollywood Brown possibly comes back, until other guys, Worthy steps up, or whoever it is, and Kelsey, I'll throw him in the same boat. We need you two guys to make magic like you've always done, or else it won't be a three-peat. We'll fall short. Yeah, you mentioned earlier with Philadelphia, no Devontae, no A.J.
Those guys are Pro Bowl type players for a reason, and their impact on the team is far-reaching. It impacts everybody, not only on offense, but on defense as well. And it's the same thing there. When you take Rashee Rice off that team, he was the go-to guy. At the end of the year last year, hand it to Pacheco, throw it to Rice, throw it to Kelsey. That was their offense. And now they have some role players emerging. But you got to pull back and say they're 4-0. They're finding ways to win. They have a championship mentality. They're figuring it out. The defense is elite. The head coach is one of the all-time greats, and the quarterback the best of his generation. I bet on these guys. They're going to have to figure it out. Some guys are going to have to step up. 87 has to emerge, right? Not real good the first 3 games, much better today. So he's got to be a big part of it like he has been for so long for those guys. And, you know, Mike, you threw out the idea that Devontae Adams is going to get traded before the trade deadline. If I'm Kansas City and Brett Beach, I'm on the horn trying to get that guy to come to Kansas City. What do you think?
I don't know how Mark Davis would feel about trading Devontae Adams in the division unless they make him an offer they can't refuse. I mean, it would have to be well above anything else out there. But they do need to be looking, as the trade deadline approaches, for opportunities to add a receiver. That's the easiest way to take a position of weakness and make it stronger.
Hey, 2018, we decided Des Bryant wasn't going to be with our team anymore. We were trying to do a receiver by committee, all that kind of stuff. Will McClay comes into my office, talks about a couple receivers we might trade for. I was like, He's like, what do you think about Amari Cooper? I'm like, Amari Cooper? We can get Amari Cooper? Yeah, tonight. Let's get him here. I'll go fly and get him, you know? And sure enough, we made that trade. So you never know what's going on in the mind of other people around the league. Call, get on the horn. And if you can bring a guy like that in, he'll make a difference for your team.
Could be Amari Cooper.
I was just going to say, Cleveland lost again today. You know.
But
It wouldn't be a bad call for them to make, see if Amari Cooper wants to go to Kansas City. I think you brought it up here, right, Coach? The other thing I want to say is like, again, they have 3 things that you need, right? They got the best quarterback in the NFL, they got the best coach or one of the best coaches, and they got an elite defense. Like, you got a chance every Sunday with those 3 things. They're 4-0. They have a nice win here. The other thing I want to bring up is last year, Rashee Rice. It was week 8. Week 8 was the first time Rashee Rice played 60% of the snaps for the Chiefs last year. He was a rookie. When he started out, he was just basically doing go routes. Like, he didn't know the full playbook. They didn't have a trust in him in the entire route tree. And it wasn't until like the second half of the season that Andy Reid and the staff felt like, okay, let's give him more. And I think that's what will happen with Xavier Worthy, who is, you know, insanely talented. He's young, but they'll bring him along. Maybe he has to get ready a little bit quicker. But again, that's why you stack these wins in September. You're 4-0. The other thing I want to say here is that, like, you know, give the Chargers a lot of credit, right? They lost this game, but no Rashawn Slater, no Joe Alt in this game, no Joey Bosa. Justin Herbert's out there in like half a leg. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and they were in this game until the very end. So I want to give a lot of, so much talk is going to be after this game about Rashee Rice and the injury and that the Chiefs are 4-0, but just credit to Coach Harbaugh and the Chargers for gutting that one out. Like, again, a loss is a loss, but I thought as losses go, it's a pretty good one.
All right, guys, it's time for our speed round. You got to answer some tough questions here, and we're going to start with Doug Pederson and whether or not we think he's going to make it to Halloween as the Jaguars head coach.
I'm going to say yes. Just, I don't know who else on that staff takes over that team, but it's been a tough start, obviously, for Jacksonville, but I'll say yes.
The problem is the owner came out and said less than a month ago, this is the best Jaguars team that's ever been assembled. He's wrong, but he's the guy who's going to make the decision as to whether or not they're living up to the potential. And he said the time to win is now. So I don't know who the alternative would be. We were talking about that today.
Point.
Mike McCoy is there as quarterback's coach, maybe him, but I don't know. They got to win some games, and they got 4 not easy games coming up.
I got you right here. They got the Colts, the Bears, the Pats, and the Packers.
Okay, they got one easy game coming up.
So I think he makes it to Halloween. I see what Florio is saying. When the owner says that, it's some pressure, but I think he makes it to Halloween. Him, his kids dress up, decide what they want to be. They'll be in Jacksonville for Halloween.
I think he definitely will be. This week was better than last week. It's something to build on. I know they're still 0-4, but they played better. They competed with Houston. They could have won the game today very easily, different than some of the other games they played this year. So they got to build on that, take it one game at a time. The schedule is favorable, so I think he's definitely going to be there. And I think they slowly turn that thing around down there.
All right, Browns fell to the Raiders today. Is Deshaun Watson still a starting QB?
He's still a starting quarterback in the sense that the bar to be a starting quarterback in the NFL is low. There aren't a lot of great quarterbacks in the NFL. Now, if the question had been, is he still a good starting quarterback? I would say no. He's 31st in yards per pass attempt this season. Bo Nix, Bryce Young. Those are the only two quarterbacks he's better at in that particular stat. He's 29th in passer rating. Yeah, I've said this before. They would have been better off sticking with Jacoby Brissett his first year there. He'd have been. We're going to see Jameis this year if they want to win.
Yeah, I mean, look.
But he's still a starting quarterback because we got Bo Nix out there. We got Daniel Jones. Yes, he's a starting quarterback.
And they have no choice. They have no choice though. He's under contract.
I understand.
For 2 years beyond this. $92 million beyond this year. They're stuck. At some point, they might have to just say,
that wasn't
like the Broncos did with Russell Wilson. I know, but
the question wasn't about the contract. It was about his talent.
He's technically a starting quarterback because he is a starting quarterback. Should he be? You could say no. Would he be, but for that contract? Maybe not.
He's still a starting quarterback. I kind of agree with Barry. I don't think the standard is so high at quarterback. But what I will say, he played better today. It was a little bit more of what we were accustomed to seeing. I think the thing for the Browns is you take and put somebody else in that quarterback, they're a real deal contender. I think that's their concern is they get the ball back, 3 minutes to go. He can go win the game for them, and they fall short, but he could start on other teams in the NFL.
They went to the playoffs last year. Kevin Stefanski was the coach of the year because they put Joe Flacco in there, and they went on a little run. So there are some elements to that team. They missed Nick Chubb. There's no question about that. Environment for Deshaun not nearly as good when you don't have that guy behind you. But your number one job as a head coach is to put the team together and play the right guys. And I'm impressed with what Canales did down in Carolina. Bryce Young, first player taken in the draft. Okay, they give him 2 or 3 games, and they say, Andy Dalton gives us a better shot. So at some point, they're going to say, we need to win games there. How is our quarterback playing? He played better in this game. It looked a little bit more like himself. But at the end of the game, it went back to what we've seen the last couple of years. Didn't play with that confidence, didn't play with that swag. Again, contagious throughout the team. So you put Jameis in there. Does he give that team a little bit of a spark, start believing in themselves again? Who knows? But at some point, these games count, and the season's going to go on. So if it's not now, it's coming pretty soon.
One point real quick. You mentioned Joe Flacco. I asked him today, why'd you sign with the Colts? Not a lot of the teams were calling. Well, did the Browns ever even make you an offer? He was comeback player of the year last year. They didn't even make him an offer because they knew what would be going on in Cleveland right now if he was
back
on
to that contract, Florio.
So
back to the contract.
It's forcing the Browns' hand.
Listen, I think about when Washington and they replaced RG3 with Kirk Cousins. I think about the Cowboys when Dak kept his job, even though Tony Romo was healthy, right? I mean, you think about who's got the best chance to give that team a win, and I don't know that it's Watson. I will say this. To defend Watson, I will say he had a long, very nice play to Amari Cooper in this game that called back due to penalty, and maybe the day looks different if that penalty doesn't get called.
All right, I'm going to speed your speed round up a little bit, guys.
Sure.
What's your biggest concern with the Eagles right now?
It's the defense. They're allowing 6 yards per play. They're 29th in total defense this season. They're 29th in pass defense. Their defense, I mean, they got lit up by the Buccaneers.
I think it traces to the head coach. I think it did last year. I don't know what he said to Jeffrey Lurie to keep his job. Remember when they lost that playoff game and you could see, I don't know what the look was on Jeffrey Lurie's face, but it wasn't good. And he kept him. And it just feels like that's still the root of the problem.
I agree. I think when you talk about the defense, it's inconsistencies. It's not the same defense showing up playing every time. It's the decision-making. So to me, that leads back ultimately to the head coach having the team ready to go.
I just think it's the inconsistency of the entire team. The defense has been up and down. Great performance last week against New Orleans. They couldn't have been worse than they were today. Offensively, they've been inconsistent. They just haven't gotten anything going. And turnovers have been an issue. Certainly guys have been in and out of that lineup. Lane Johnson not there. The receivers aren't there. I get all that. But at some point, you got to kind of figure it out. And they've had some highlights at different times offensively this year. But as a team, they haven't been consistent at all. And you're not going to win a lot of games if you're an inconsistent team like they've been.
Another inconsistent team, the Jets. Do we believe that Robert Saleh is equipped to lead them to the playoffs?
Yes. Will he be allowed to? I don't know because, I think Aaron Rodgers controls that team. And so it's ultimately about number 8, But Saleh's a good coach.
Based on what we saw week 3, if you hold the Broncos to 10 points, that should be enough.
Yes.
So the offense was at fault today. The defense is holding strong. The offense has to do more.
Our producer is in front of us. This is his question. This is James Kaminsky's question. Saleh, all gas, no brakes. Let Saleh cook. The Jets will make the playoffs. Saleh will get them going.
Yeah, I agree. I think you just got to be careful of saying, oh, it's the defense's fault. It's the offense's fault. If the defense did their job. These guys, that's not what you guys did. It's a team thing. You win as a team, you lose as a team. I know that's coach speak. I know it's a cliche, but it's true. The best teams have that attitude. And there's a lot of noise around this organization. They got to fight through all that. And it's Saleh's job to make sure in that building they're doing that. I think from my perspective right now, they are. They seem like they're together right now. There are challenges ahead, but they can't let this team divide from offense and defense because that is not a winning formula.
We're forgetting. It's Aaron Rodgers' second year, but it's really the first year. And last year, all we kept saying was, give the team time to build together. They still need that time.
Yeah, it's the first year of the Aaron Rodgers experience.
It really is.
Well, hopefully James Kaminsky's okay with the answers and he feels better going to sleep.
He's already conceding they're going to lose.
This whole day was ruined today.
Yeah, he did say that.
By the way, the guy makes the field goal, the whole narrative changes. They could have played better, obviously, but they had a chance to win at the end.
That's the history of football, though.
Yeah, I understand.
Scott Norwood.
Yeah,
right?
Sure, of course.
All right, guys, before we just launch into some kind of fight here at the desk, we're going to get out. We'll see you week 5, though. We've got the Steelers and the Cowboys. Football Night in America will start at 7 Eastern, and we hope that you will join us and, of course, continue to listen to our podcast, like and subscribe wherever it is.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.